What is going on, Ravens flock? Welcome back to the Flock Files. I'm your host, Corey, the home of Ravens news, breakdowns, and bold opinions. If you're just tired of the boring Ravens takes and you want real, first-hand fan opinions, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. What's going on, Ravens flock? Welcome to another episode of Flock Files. Today I just want to jump into a few storylines that have happened over the last couple of days. Of course, we've hired Declan Doyle to be our offensive coordinator. He was one of the final two remaining names that a lot of people had us taking, Cliff Kingsbury or Declan Doyle. I will be the first to say I was a big hater on this hire before it was official. I just think he's really young. He's coming from a system where he wasn't calling the plays. He's never been a play caller. I think he's been under amazing head coaches, Sean Payton and now Ben Johnson, awesome play callers and amazing offensive minds. However, there's always, some struggle when you get to calling the plays for the first time. So even though he was in the room studying with these great offensive minds and learned their schemes, when it comes to situational football and him making the actual calls, there might be some instances where there's some growing pains. And that's really the only hate I had on the situation, because I think this Ravens team is still in a win now mode. I don't think we have a couple of years to wait around for, the coaching staff to grasp their identities and, find out who they really are. I think this has to be something that hits the ground running right away. Because if we wait a couple of years, Lamar Jackson will be out of his prime, and then we're looking at a whole different situation. So that's the only part about this hire that I would say is a negative in my eyes, or could be a negative. I know Ravens flock has a lot of different opinions on it, and being that he is officially our offensive coordinator, I'm going to do nothing but support him. Obviously, I want him to hit the ground running, and I want things to start off hot right from the get-go. Because we don't have time to waste. At least I don't think we do. And I'm excited to see, maybe what this young offensive coordinator could potentially bring, knowing the coaching staffs that he's coming from. I've also seen some people say that because there's no film of him directly calling plays, that could be a benefit for us, because no one's going to know what he's going to do in certain situations, especially the first year. I have also read some things saying that he was behind most of the run development in Chicago this last year. So that's definitely, a nice piece that adds to my confidence that he was calling and designing some of the plays. So it'll be interesting to see what this season holds. And I wish him nothing but the best, obviously. I hope that this team, obviously does better than last year and hits the ground running and makes that next stride and proves that Vegas was just 1 year early. And, this upcoming season is our year to make a run to win it all. We're about to watch a Super Bowl with a second-year head coach in Mike McDonald and a first-year head coach in Mike Vrabel. Technically, Mike Vrabel isn't a first-year head coach, but first year with this team. And then you saw Ben Johnson make it deep in the playoffs. You saw the Jaguars make it in the playoffs with a first-year head coach. So to say that Jesse Minter and this coaching staff can't, click right off the bat and make a deep run, if not a run to go all the way next year, it is very possible. And some other assistant coaching Ravens news. Ravens are hiring former Colts assistant Charlie Gelman as their game managed coordinator and defensive assistant. Gelman will replace Daniel Stern, who is expected to become the Browns' associate head coach. Gelman was with the Ravens when Jesse Minter was here. It looks like we're bringing back a lot of people that were once on this staff. And Gelman is also very young, so it looks like we are continuing to build a diabolic young coaching staff, which in my opinion is awesome. Sometimes the older coaches are stuck in their ways from coaching in the early 2000s, and football's changed so much that some of those schemes just don't work anymore. You need an innovative young mind or minds. And I really like, that we're going a lot younger and taking that risk. It looks like the Ravens have also requested to interview Jaguars' assistant coach for their wide receiver coaching opening, Tyler Tettleton, which is another interesting name to bring in. It also looks like they've requested an interview for Ronald Curry, which is the Bills' quarterback coach. He would come over and, be our QB coach. It's good that he's been with Josh Allen, a supreme quarterback in this league over the last year and a half, 2 years. So to bring some of that knowledge over here to Lamar Jackson and maybe continue to help improve his passing game in certain situations, I'm all for that. Someone who's getting let go that I couldn't be more excited to see leave is the New York Giants are hiring Ron Schrift, who has been our strength and conditioning coach over the last 9 seasons. And as all of us Ravens fans know, we've been through a lot with injuries. Some of the most ridiculous injuries in the very beginning of seasons too, which completely takes us out of our mojo and, everything that we had planned and our aspirations for the rest of the season. So I don't know if it was necessarily directly caused by him and his training program, but, seeing that things haven't really changed over the last couple of years, seeing him leave and a new mind with new techniques and new strength and conditioning coming in is welcomed by me, and I can't wait to see, if that does have any changes going forward. Another thing I keep seeing online, obviously just rumors and conversation right now, but people are bringing up the idea of DJ Moore following Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle to Baltimore. I do like DJ Moore when he's at his best, but just over the last couple seasons, he's really shown some attitude problems when things get hard, and he takes his frustration out on the field, and and just doesn't finish his routes, and the Bears also paid him a massive extension, so we would have to take care of the rest of that. So in my opinion, I don't think DJ Moore is the move to bring on over, unless we can get the Bears to pay some of what he's owed. But I don't think that that's the right move for the Ravens to bring him over. I think between the draft and maybe another free agent signing or a trade and sign type of deal, I think we're okay. I know a lot of people are also hating on Rashad Bateman, and they'd love to see him dealt in a trade package based on, what he's said recently and the rumors. I'd be okay with them trading him for the right piece, but I also think Rashad Bateman is awesome. I've said it in many videos before. I say it on X all the time. Just watch the kid's college tape and honestly watch some of his routes from the last couple of years in the NFL. He's not a bad receiver. We just need someone that's going to play to his strengths and, call plays to his strengths and, help develop him a little bit more. And hopefully these young, Declan Doyle and Jesse Minter and some of these younger coaches coming in can connect with him and really build to his strengths if we keep him. Because I still think Rashad Bateman hasn't even scratched the surface of what he can really be in this league. And then I know everyone saw the news on X. Matabike tweeted out good news with some praying hands. Hopefully he's talking about football there and not just getting us all hyped up. I hate when players send cryptic tweets and, it could literally be about anything. It could be that, his next situation has been proven that he will heal and, he won't be paralyzed or anything like that. Not that that's ever been, let out to the public that he was going to be paralyzed or something, but I'm just saying, like, him saying good news could literally mean anything, that he doesn't need surgery, it doesn't necessarily mean that he can play football again. Obviously, we're very hopeful that that's what that does mean, that he will be back next year. And if that's the case, that takes a huge load off the Ravens in this offseason and throughout the draft, knowing that he's coming back. That would be absolutely incredible. I can't wait to see Matabike back out on the field disrupting offenses. He was one of my favorite players. We paid him a decent chunk of money. Obviously, you can't control injuries, especially something serious like that. You want to take all the precautions that are needed. But if he's back out there come September, that's a huge addition to our team. And last but not least, not Ravens news, but football news. It looks like Clint Kubiak is expected to step into the Las Vegas Raiders role as head coach. He will be having the number 1 overall pick with a chance to select Heisman winner Fernando Mendoza. He has guys there already like Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. If he can retain Max Crosby and he doesn't get traded, he has, pieces on the defense that he can continue to build around. Tom Brady obviously has a small ownership in there, but even though his ownership might be small, his voice is huge in that organization. So he has a good mentor. And they're projected to have $90 million in cap space, which is huge. So he's really going to have no limits on building and bringing in the players that he wants. So that's a pretty big hire for that organization. And then the Arizona Cardinals are also planning to hire Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur as their new head coach, per Tom Pelissero. He's a bright, young offensive mind for the Cardinals. I don't really think the Cardinals are going to be a threat anytime soon. They have a lot of questions and holes everywhere, but Mike LaFleur will be their head coach going forward, so that's a good young hire for them as well. And that's about it. That's the most recent news in the Ravens world over the last couple days. We're still looking for a defensive coordinator. I think Joe Cullen is a guy that needs to be brought in. He was also on the staff with Jesse Minter when Jesse Minter was here originally as the defensive assistant. So I think the fact that the two of them have some history of working together would be good. I think Cullen is also an older coach, so he's kind of proven what his defenses can do. So I think he'd be somebody that's okay with Minter calling the defense, but he'd also be there for expertise and veteran assistance for Jesse Minter in certain situations and being able to direct him in the right direction. And I think that could be huge. If you've enjoyed today's video, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for up-to-the-minute Ravens coverage. Please don't hesitate to drop your take in the comments. I love hearing from the flock, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.